Hello and welcome to Japan Lyric Room. In this show, we carefully appreciate the lyrics of Japanese songs, explaining the meanings behind the phrases and their unique Japanese cultural backgrounds in an easy-to-understand way.
It is a genuine pleasure to be back with you. Today we're doing a lyric explanation of a track that just completely shattered cultural and linguistic barriers.
Yeah, we are looking at the brilliant Japanese artist, Fujii Kaze.
Such an incredible talent.
Right. Specifically, we're going back to his debut album, Help Ever Hurt Never, which was released on May 20th, 2020.
A fantastic record.
It really is. And the focus track we are meticulously unpacking today is his absolute masterpiece, Shinunoga E-Wa.
You know, to call Shinunoga E-Wa a hit almost feels like an understatement.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It became a global phenomenon. And the timeline of how it happened is just fascinating.
It wasn't immediate, right?
Right. The album itself came out in the spring of 2020, but the song didn't really ignite globally until the summer of 2022.
2 whole years later.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it started with a single Thai TikTok user featuring the track in a video. And from that one localized moment, it just exploded into this unprecedented viral success.
Oh, wow.
It actually charted on Spotify's daily viral charts in all 73 surveyed countries.
All of them?
All 73. It was a massive first for any Japanese artist. And it even climbed all the way to number 3 on the Spotify US Viral 50.
Which, poses such a compelling question for you listening at home. How did a track that heavily features the highly specific regional Okayama dialect somehow capture the hearts of the entire world?
It's a great question.
I mean, you literally had millions of people across the globe singing along to localized Japanese phrasing they didn't conceptually understand.
Right, just feeling the vibe.
Exactly. And to figure out why that sonic resonance was so powerful, we need to delve deep into the lyrics. But before we look at a single word, we have to understand the mind of the artist who penned them.
That is the essential starting point. You simply cannot understand Fujii Kaze's lyricism without understanding his core philosophy.
His worldview.
Yeah. His entire worldview is deeply rooted in the concept of universal love and the lifelong pursuit of finding freedom from the human ego.
Which is pretty heavy for pop music.
It is. He's been heavily influenced throughout his life by the teachings of the spiritual leader Sathya Sai Baba.
Oh, interesting.
And when you begin to view his discography through that specific spiritual lens, you realize his music operates on a completely different level.
It isn't just commercial pop.
No, it functions almost as a modern rhythmic hymn.
And you can actually see that spiritual thesis playing out chronologically across his entire body of work.
You really can.
If we look at his 3 album titles and their release dates, they form this beautiful, cohesive spiritual journey.
A literal trilogy.
Right. It kicks off with his first album, the one featuring our focus track, titled Help Ever Hurt Never, released on May 20th, 2020.
And that title is a foundational maxim. It means, quite literally, to always offer aid to others and to never inflict harm.
A baseline for ethical human behavior.
Exactly. And from there, we move to the evolution of that thought in his second album, Love All, Serve All, which was released on March 23rd, 2022.
Expanding the concept.
Right. It elevates it from simple nonviolence to an active, universal devotion and service to all of humanity.
And that Eckert trajectory leads us perfectly into the culmination of this trilogy, which is his third album, Prima, released on September 5th, 2025.
That's such a powerful title.
Yeah, Prima is the Sanskrit word for love, specifically referring to pure, divine, unconditional love.
The overarching architecture here is just brilliant. All 3 of these album titles are direct maxims taught by Sathya Sai Baba.
Right.
Kaze's taking these profound, ancient spiritual directives and seamlessly weaving them into highly modern, incredibly accessible soundscapes.
But I want to pause here, make sure we emphasize something crucial for the listener.
Go for it.
Hearing all this talk of ancient maxims and ego death, you might picture Kaze as this austere spiritual thinker sitting on a mountain somewhere.
Right, making esoteric meditation music.
Exactly. But he is not. He is a legitimate, world-class, global pop icon.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at his brand new release, My Place, which just dropped on March 6th, 2026.
A massive track.
Yeah, this wasn't some quiet indie release. It was created for the historic 2026 World Baseball Classic official soundtrack.
And the sheer scale of that particular collaboration tells you everything you need to know about his standing in the global industry.
Because of who produced it, right?
Yes. That track came from a direct offer from Taney, the two-time Grammy-winning, Billboard-topping Latin producer.
That is wild.
Taney actively sought Kaze out, and the resulting track is this breathtaking, boundary-pushing blend of English, Japanese, and Spanish.
All anchored by driving reggaeton beats.
Exactly. It's a stunning testament to Kaze's world-class artistry. He has an absolute mastery of lyricism that transcends cultural and genre boundaries.
So keeping that immense pop sensibility in mind, let's turn our attention back to the song itself, Shinunoga E-Wa.
Let's do it.
When you first hit play on this track, it creates an immediate, highly specific atmosphere.
It really does.
It sounds like an intensely passionate, almost obsessive, dark love song.
It absolutely does. Every sonic cue points to that. The minor key melody, the breathy, urgent vocal delivery.
The heavy, pulsating beat.
Right. It signals a traditional romantic obsession. You feel like you're listening to someone descending into a toxic, all-consuming romance.
But that is the grand illusion of the track, isn't it?
It is. Shinunoga E-Wa is not a love song directed at another person.
Wow.
It is actually a deeply personal vow to the ideal self. It's addressed to the strongest, most divine, purest version of oneself.
That completely changes how you listen to the chorus. You aren't tapping your foot to a romantic tragedy anymore.
No, you're tapping your foot to an ego death.
It's a battle for spiritual purity. I mean, the title itself literally translates to the feeling of, I'd rather die than return to my immature, ego-driven self.
Right. He isn't talking about dying for a lover. He's talking about letting the selfish, worldly ego die so that the true, pure self can live.
It represents the ultimate internal struggle that every human being faces. And Kaze maps out the escalating severity of this vow through the song's lyrics.
We are going to carefully appreciate how he builds this argument by looking at 7 key moments in the song.
He opens this internal vow with a promise that sounds innocent at first, until you actually listen to the words. We begin with a fascinating opening line. The English translation and cultural nuance here is, let's make a pinky swear. If I ever tell a lie, or blow my own horn, I will gladly swallow 1,000 needles starting this Monday.
The sociolinguistic choices here are just incredible. Yubi Kirigenman is a traditional Japanese children's song.
Right.
It's the melody every kid sings when making a pinky promise on the playground. But Kaze fuses this innocent childhood rhyme with the phrase hora ofuku, which translates to blowing a horn.
Meaning to exaggerate or boast, right?
Exactly. It reveals a severe determination to never fake it or lie to the ideal self.
It's like signing an incredibly strict magical contract with yourself. Kaze is setting up a system where the moment his ego tries to inflate itself, the alarm goes off in the form of swallowing needles.
Yes, he is demanding severe, unwavering honesty from himself. What's brilliant is how he takes this brutal imagery of swallowing needles and disguises it playfully in a catchy rhyme. And by adding, starting this Monday, he brings this lofty spiritual vow right down to our mundane human calendar. It evokes that universal feeling of, well, my new diet starts Monday.
That's such a great point. That severe honesty naturally begs a question, though. If he's stripping away all his lies, who is he actually bearing his soul to?
Right.
He answers this by twisting a classic fairy tale trope in our next phrase. English translation and cultural nuance is, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the one in this world who will give me an unchanging eternal love? We all know the Snow White reference, but usually that's about vanity. Here, it feels turned completely inward.
I completely agree. In Western pop culture, the mirror is almost always a tool of vanity. But Kaze is engaging in profound spiritual self-inquiry.
Seeking something deeper than just looks.
Exactly. External love fluctuates, It is conditional and deeply tied to the ego. But the divine ideal self within you, that untouchable core, never betrays you. It is the only source of truly unchanging, eternal love.
Once you identify that eternal core staring back at you, how far are you willing to go to protect it? That brings us to the centerpiece of the song, which contains the title track itself.
The big one.
Yeah. The English translation and cultural nuance is, I want my end to be with my ideal self. Rather than saying farewell and living as a shell of a person, I'd rather die.
This is where we hit the absolute emotional climax of the philosophy. Shinunoga E-Wa literally translates to, I'd rather die.
Which sounds super dark at first.
Right. To a casual listener, it sounds incredibly morbid or like an unhealthy romantic obsession.
Yeah.
But through the lens of Sai Baba's teachings, it is about non-attachment to physical life.
Yeah.
This isn't about physical death. Kaze is declaring that if physical survival requires him to lose his soul's brilliance, if it means saying farewell to his ideal self, then living has no value.
Right. But grounding enlightenment is one thing, the next line takes it to the literal kitchen table. The English translation and cultural nuance is, I choose you over my 3 meals a day. Now, okay, choosing a spiritual ideal over eating 3 meals a day, that's intense. Why use such a mundane comparison?
It does feel jarring, doesn't it? But he is intentionally reframing the drama into a context every single human being understands. What is our most consistent biological drive? Eating. This is the highest form of comparison in daily life. He brings the lofty concepts of love all, serve all, and prema, this universal love transcending material desire, right down to the most relatable everyday language.
It bridges the gap between the heavens and our mundane routines.
Yeah.
But sustaining that level of devotion every single day is incredibly difficult, which leads to a moment of startling vulnerability in our 5th phrase.
Yes.
The English translation and cultural nuance is, even so, my heart occasionally wavers and gets distracted by worldly temptations.
So he is human. It's not just perfect enlightenment all the time.
Exactly. This might be the most crucial line when it comes to the listener's connection. He uses the word uwatsuku, which describes a wavering, unsettled, or flighty heart.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that the ego still sneaks in despite these high ideals is exactly what makes Kaze's music a relatable salvation for listeners. He is openly admitting that he gets distracted by worldly temptations. He validates the failure, but he refuses to let that failure define him. And the sheer force of his response is captured in our next phrase. The English translation and cultural nuance is, they say bad habits never die until you do, but I'll fix them even if I have to undergo death to do it.
He is taking direct aim at traditional Japanese wisdom here.
Oh.
Yeah, there is a common Japanese proverb suggesting that bad habits never die, meaning they will never be fixed in this lifetime.
But Kaze completely rejects that static view of human nature. He leans back into his Okayama roots, noting the dialect Neorana, which means if it doesn't get fixed.
Right. He flips that proverb on its head.
The determination is so overwhelming that he's willing to transcend life and death or undergo reincarnation just to fix his ego.
It is a radical rejection of complacency. When society says people don't change, Kaze says, watch me even if it takes multiple lifetimes.
Which brings us to the climax of this lyrical journey, the ultimate severing of ties with that immaturity. The English translation and cultural nuance is, realizing the value of something only after losing it? Well, I'm done with such pathetic, unrefined behavior. Goodbye to my old self.
The linguistic layering here is phenomenal. Let's look at the slang word Dasai.
Okay.
In everyday Japanese, Dasai means unrefined, pathetic, or uncool. You'd use it to describe a terrible outfit. But Kaze elevates this mundane slang, applying it here to spiritual immaturity.
Taking your blessings for granted is fundamentally uncool.
Exactly.
And he pairs Dasai with shitanai, which is the Okayama dialect for I don't want to do. It's a final, powerful declaration to step away from cycles of regret and walk toward a refined soul. So when we pull all of these complex threads together, what is the ultimate takeaway for the listener?
When you synthesize this entire journey, you realize that Shinunoga E-Wa isn't just a pop song, it's a soul's textbook.
Wow, a soul's textbook.
Yeah. It blends the earthy local resonance of the Okayama dialect with cosmic teachings of universal love. It asks you how you will protect your soul's core against the daily temptations of the ego.
That is just incredible. Think about your own daily life. What is one Dasai, one unrefined, ego-driven habit that you are ready to say goodbye to today so you can step closer to your own ideal self? Thank you so much for listening today. We pick up various Japanese songs and update our website with detailed explanations. If you want to appreciate and savor these lyrics even more deeply, please check out our website using the link in the description.
Absolutely, please do.
If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe and follow us. Let us know your thoughts or request a song you'd like us to cover in the comments. We'll see you next time. This was Japan Lyric Room.